Let's make it real. Nobody tells you this because it would be cruel, but you know it. You are fading away. And the worst part is that you're doing it silently. Not because your body doesn't respond, not because life has been unfair. You're fading because, at some point between your 30s and today, you bought a lie disguised as logic. The lie that your moment has already passed. Do you know what that means? It means that every time you look back and say, I used to have more energy, you're really saying, now I'm no longer enough. And that is a criminal thought, not only because it's false, but because it's dangerous. Because if you repeat it enough, your mind turns it into truth. And you know what's the worst? Time is not what's taking away your opportunities. It's you. With every elegant excuse you make to not try, with every poisoned thought telling you that dreaming is for the young, with every resignation you disguise as maturity. Do you want an uncomfortable truth? Most people after 40 have already signed their own sentence. They don't do it with ink, they do it with thoughts. Silent thoughts that nobody hears but that dictate every decision. I'm not for that anymore. That's for others. At this point, they're short phrases that sound innocent but kill. They kill your drive, your creativity, your hunger. But here's the twist. It's not your age that stops you. It's the programming you have installed. Programming that you have been repeating for years until it became automatic. The subconscious mind doesn't understand time. It doesn't distinguish between yesterday and tomorrow. It just obeys. If you tell it, I can't anymore, it responds, understood. If you think, I'm too old for this, it doesn't argue, it executes. That's how powerful and dangerous it is. And that's why, if you don't reprogram that machine, you'll live the same year 40 times and call it life. But listen carefully. There are people who thrive after 40, who grow, break patterns, who do in 10 years what they didn't do in 30. Do you know what they have in common? Not luck, not contacts, not privileged genetics. They have something else, a mindset that doesn't surrender to the calendar. They understood that age is not a barrier, it's a springboard. Because at 45, at 50, at 57, you've already seen enough to distinguish an illusion from a real opportunity. You've fallen enough to know how to truly get up. Look at the story of Antonio Ferreira, 48 years old, plumber, fired without notice. One ordinary Monday, he stopped being useful to the company that hired him. For days, he repeated the same phrase, I'm old and no one's going to hire me anymore. He repeated it so many times that his body began to respond to that idea. He moved slower, spoke less. His eyes were dull. Until one day, in front of the mirror, he asked himself a brutal question. What if this were a lie? That's when everything changed. It wasn't magic, it wasn't luck, it was reprogramming. He started talking to himself differently, using auto-suggestion as a tool. Every morning he told himself, I have experience, I have solutions, I have value. He didn't feel it at first. It was uncomfortable. False. But he repeated it anyway. And little by little, that new narrative began to replace the old one. He started offering his services not as just another plumber, but as a leak prevention specialist. He wasn't selling fixes. He was selling peace of mind. He wasn't solving problems. He was anticipating them. And that is vision. Today, Antonio has a team of 5 people. He has regular clients. He has income he never imagined. But above all, he has something you can have too, a deprogrammed mind. Because age does not determine your value. Only your narrative does. And here is the breaking point. What separates you from success is not your current situation. It's your self-perception. It's that internal dialogue you repeat every day without questioning. that constant whisper telling you that you tried too late, that it's no longer worth it. But what if all that was a poorly told story? What if you were exactly the person the world needs now, not 20 years ago? What if your scars were not a weakness, but your mark of authenticity? The problem isn't aging. The problem is allowing age to dictate your behavior. There are young people with old souls who have already given up. And there are adults at 56 who are starting the best chapter of their lives. Which side do you want to be on? Because here's something you don't want to hear, but need to understand. No one is going to come save you. No one is going to show up and say, "Now you can start." Either you do it, or you stay paused forever. And if you're waiting for the perfect moment, you already lost. Because the perfect moment doesn't exist. What exists is the now. Imperfect, uncertain, but real. And if you don't act from here, the next year will be the same as the last. And that's the true hell, living in a loop decorated with excuses. Be honest. How many times have you looked in the mirror and felt you were made for more? How many times have you felt there's still a spark inside you, but you crush it with phrases like, "Maybe in another life"? Well, let me tell you something. This is your other life. This is the opportunity you were waiting for. You don't see it because you're too busy regretting what wasn't. Your mind is a tool, but it can also be a prison. You decide whether to use it to build or to lock yourself in. Because what you think every day is not innocent. It is shaping your reality, your habits, your decisions, your relationships. Everything is born from that invisible core that is your belief system. And if that system is rotten, your life will be too. No matter how much you work, how hard you try, or how much you dream, if you don't clean the root, the fruit will remain bitter. And do you know what's the most tragic? Most people realize it when it's already too late, when there's no energy, no time, no motivation, when they've already buried their dreams under tons of routine. But you're still in time, and you know it, you feel it. That discomfort you have now isn't a coincidence. It's your soul asking you to wake up. It's life shouting at you that you still can, that you still must. But this is not solved with pretty phrases. It's solved with brutal honesty. Are you willing to challenge what you believe about yourself? Are you willing to become someone new? Because if you're not, this video will be just another stimulus you forget in 10 minutes. But if you are, then hold on. Because the path won't be easy. Reprogramming your mind hurts. It's a war against everything you believed to be true. But it's the only way. You'll have to face your darkest thoughts, your insecurities, your inner voices that call you mediocre, a failure, old. You'll have to look all that in the face and say, "Thanks for your opinion, but no more." You'll have to build a new narrative, one born not from fear, but from possibility, one not written by your past, but by your vision. And then, when the change begins, it won't be obvious. No one will notice at first. There won't be applause, there won't be fireworks, there will only be silence. And in that silence, you will be rebuilding yourself, day by day, thought by thought. Until one day, without realizing it, you look back and say, "Damn, I made it." And that day you will understand it was never about age. It was you. It was always you. And now the only question that matters is, are you going to reprogram yourself as a loser? Or are you going to write your rebirth with your own hands? Because this isn't about time, it's about decision. And the decision is now. And here's where most people make the biggest mistake of their lives. Thinking that changing the way you think is a mental act. As if just repeating positive phrases or visualizing an ideal version of yourself silently before sleep were enough. That's just the surface. What nobody tells you is that real transformation, the one that rebuilds you from the ashes, happens invisibly, but feeds on something very physical: your environment. Want to know why you remain tied to the same self-destructive thoughts? Because you live surrounded by people who normalize them. Because your daily conversations reinforce your resignation. Because your routine is a factory of mediocrity disguised as stability. The mind is not only programmed by what you think, it's programmed by what you allow. Every word you hear, every gesture you tolerate, every environment you choose to inhabit is a direct instruction to your subconscious. And if you keep surrounded by people who have given up on their dreams, surrender will be normal. If your friends say, "At our age, it's no longer possible," that becomes the mantra of your brain. Not because it's true, but because you hear it so much you stop questioning it. And here comes the brutal detail nobody warns you about. The environment doesn't shape you suddenly. It does so silently, day by day, drop by drop, like water wearing down stone without making noise. And you think for yourself, but in reality, you are the echo of what you consume daily. That's why if you really want to thrive after 40, changing what you think isn't enough. You have to change what you allow into your life. You have to mentally shield yourself. And that involves tough decisions. It means setting boundaries. It means distancing yourself from people you love, but who poison you with their limited vision. It means saying no to meetings where they only talk about what can't be done anymore. It means closing the door to any conversation that starts with, "It's because at this age," because those phrases, though they seem harmless, are poison. Soft, slow, but lethal. And don't get me wrong, this isn't selfishness. It's survival. It's emotional intelligence. It's self-love. Or has carrying other people's negativity taken you anywhere? How much longer are you going to sacrifice your future to avoid bothering anyone? How many times have you stopped moving forward so you don't seem arrogant? So you don't break the harmony? Do you know what is really arrogant? Believing you can keep your greatness in a small environment without being affected. No one is that strong. No one is immune to the constant wear of mediocrity. Look around you. Do it now. Who are your role models? What kind of people do you have close? Who do you listen to more than yourself? Because if those people aren't on the path you want to take, why do you let them have a say in your direction? It's hard, yes, but necessary. Because here comes the uncomfortable truth. You can't become someone new in the same environment that destroyed you. You can't keep old habits with new aspirations. And even less can you expect different results while surrounded by the same beliefs disguised as company. And there's one more thing nobody mentions: language. Not only others' language, but yours. The way you talk to yourself, yes, but also the words you choose when describing your life. Because every word you use is an agreement with your reality. When you say, "It's difficult," you make it harder. When you say, "I don't know if I can," your body already prepares to fail. Language is the invisible architecture of your destiny. And if you don't watch it, you're sabotaging yourself with every phrase. Start talking as if you were already the person you want to be. Not from arrogance, but from certainty. The certainty that you can. The certainty that you are on your way. The certainty that you no longer accept reduced versions of yourself. Because every time you choose a word from limitation, you reinforce the idea that your age is an obstacle. And it isn't. Your age is a library, full of lessons, wounds, silent victories, falls that taught you more than any book. Why keep treating it like a burden? Listen to this. There's no stronger force than someone who has been destroyed inside and yet decides to rebuild. Because they no longer act for validation, they act from conviction. And that conviction doesn't stop, doesn't break, doesn't ask for permission, doesn't negotiate with doubt. And you can be that person. If you decide that enough is enough, if you decide that your environment doesn't define you, if you decide your language will be your ally, not your executioner. Do you know the biggest mistake of those who age without evolving? They keep having the same thoughts, the same fears, the same habits, but expect a different life, as if just the passage of time would reward them with something. They don't understand that time doesn't reward. Time only reveals who you've become, reveals what you've tolerated, reveals how willing you were to fight for yourself. And here comes something even deeper, something unseen but felt, your vital energy, that vibration you emit even without speaking, that presence that transmits if you're alive inside or just surviving. That energy isn't renewed by rest, it's renewed by purpose. And purpose isn't found by waiting. It's built, it's chosen. And yes, it can appear at 50, 60, or even 70, because the soul has no wrinkles. The soul doesn't age. It only goes out when you stop listening to it. So, listen to it. Start asking yourself uncomfortable questions again. Ask yourself what excites you again. Remember what you wanted to do before the world convinced you that you couldn't. Do you know the sign that you're still in time, that you still want it? Because if the desire is still alive, the path exists. It may be longer, harder, more demanding, but it's there, waiting for you to start walking it. And here comes the last trap. Comparison, that silent poison that makes you believe you're late because others started before. Let me tell you clearly, you're not late. You're exactly where you need to be. Time isn't measured in clocks, it's measured in awareness. And now you're more aware than ever. Do you know how valuable that is? To have a sharp mind, a tired but brave heart, and the experience to not stumble over the same stone again. That's not a disadvantage, that's a superpower. But you have to use it. There's no point in having wisdom if you don't apply it. There's no point in having lived so much if you're not willing to live the rest with intensity. Life doesn't owe you anything, but you owe yourself everything. You owe yourself to try again. You owe yourself to break the mold others imposed on you. You owe yourself to be the most brutally honest and free version of yourself. And if you got this far, it's no coincidence. It's because there's something inside you that hasn't given up yet. Something that keeps shouting quietly, "I can still," and I confirm it for you. You can, but no one is going to do it for you. This is between you and you. So decide. Decide now. Because every day you postpone, you train your mind to give up a little more. And every day you choose to move forward, even if it's one step, you're rewriting your story. The story of the one who didn't resign. The story of the one who didn't accept the script others gave him. The story of the one who, even after 40, 50, or 60, decided it wasn't over yet. That there were still chapters to write. That there was still fire. And that fire, when you feed it consciously, doesn't go out. It transforms. It becomes a beacon, an example, a legacy. And that is the only story worth living. And here's where a silent enemy comes in. One almost no one talks about, but that sabotages even the most determined. Nostalgia. That damn trap disguised as tenderness. That soft voice that whispers to you, "It was better before." When I was 20, I felt invincible. I wish I could go back. Have you noticed? Nostalgia is addictive because it turns what was into something sacred, and what is into something insufficient. And there you are, trying to move forward while part of you remains anchored to a past that no longer exists. How can you build something new if your mind is still clinging to what was? Mismanaged nostalgia is a mental drug. It makes you idolize what you lost instead of seeing what you can still gain. And worst, it distorts reality. Was that time really that good? Or are you just too frustrated now to recognize your present? Because sometimes you don't miss the past. You miss a version of yourself that dared. You miss the you who still dreamed, who wasn't afraid of looking ridiculous, who got up after every fall without the weight of "I should have." It's not time that hurts, it's resignation. And when you resign your present possibility, you idealize what you can't change anymore. And that hurts you, because while you look back, you don't see what's ahead. While you long for what you were, you neglect what you could be. And the most dangerous thing, you get used to living with that melancholy as if it were part of you. It no longer bothers you, you no longer question it. You embrace it, you swallow it like a sweet poison. And so days, weeks, years pass. Looking at old photos, listening to songs that take you back, remembering moments as if life had ended then. But it hasn't ended. What ended was your will to create new memories. Do you want to truly prosper after 40? Start by stopping looking in the rearview mirror. The past owes you nothing. Stop begging it for meaning. Stop looking for answers in versions of yourself that no longer exist. If what you were doesn't build you, then it's destroying you. Evolution doesn't happen in repetition, it happens in reinvention. And reinventing yourself isn't betrayal, it's honoring yourself. It's saying, "Thank you for all you were, but now I have to become what I haven't yet been." And yes, you'll face something else that scares more than failure. The void. That moment when you no longer identify with who you were, but you don't yet know who you'll be. That emotional no man's land. That crossroads where you have no role models, no certainties, no securities. And that's where most give up. Because being in identity limbo hurts. Being left without labels, without stories to repeat, without titles to define you leaves you naked. But that nakedness is freedom. Because in that void, if you hold on long enough without running away, something new begins to build. Something yours, something real. And the real isn't always pretty. Sometimes it's raw. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. But it's always powerful. Because it's not based on what others expect, but on what you're willing to create. And here's another truth nobody tells you. Growth isn't glamorous. It doesn't look good on Instagram. It doesn't come with likes. It comes with nights of doubts, with lonely decisions, with necessary sacrifices. It comes with losing friends who no longer resonate with you, with abandoning habits that once gave you identity, but now only chain you. It comes with making others uncomfortable who feel threatened by your progress. But it also comes with a feeling worth everything: coherence. The peace of knowing that, finally, you're being who you came to be. And reinvention is an act of courage. But it's also an act of humility, because it requires accepting that you don't know everything, that you can change your mind, that you can start over without needing to validate it with anyone. And that is the most brutal freedom there is. Being new without asking for permission. Evolving without apologizing. Because at this age, what others think should weigh less than what you feel when you look in the mirror. Now listen carefully. If you're waiting to feel safe to act, you'll never move. Because safety is a consequence, not a condition. And those who thrive after 40 aren't the ones who have everything figured out. They're the ones who decide to keep walking even with fear. They're the ones who understand that fear doesn't disappear, it's tamed. And the only way to do that is through action. Small, constant action, without needing the world to applaud. Because the world only applauds when it's obvious. But you don't need applause, you need coherence. And here's another twist. Time is no longer your enemy. It's your filter. At this age, you no longer have to say yes to everything. You no longer have to be everywhere. You no longer have to please everyone. Do you know how powerful that is? Being able to choose who you talk to, what you consume, what kind of projects you do, what kind of energy you tolerate. You're not in decline. You're in purification. You're reducing the noise to finally hear your own voice. Do you realize the privilege that represents? Not having to run like before. Not having to prove anything. Not having to impress. Just build, step by step, from within, without anxiety, without guilt, without pretensions. Real reinvention is silent, and you're already at the exact point to live it. Not because you earned it, but because you're finally seeing reality without the glasses of youth. And that, my friend, is the most brutal gift you can receive. So don't look at the past with nostalgia. Look at it with gratitude. And don't see your age as a threat. See it as a tool. You've come this far. You've endured more than you thought. You've lost things you believed you couldn't bear. And yet you're here, breathing, fighting, seeking answers. That's not weakness. That's pure resilience. And that resilience, if you channel it, becomes fire. Purpose, legacy. Because in the end, this isn't just about you. It's about what you're going to leave behind. About what you'll inspire. About the doors you'll open for others who believe it's too late. Because there's nothing more powerful than seeing someone who, against all odds, decides to start over. Who, instead of giving up, rebuilds. Who, instead of hiding, expands. Who, instead of settling, burns. Because yes, you can still burn. Not with the reckless energy of your 20s, but with the silent intensity of someone who has nothing left to prove but everything to offer. And that is unstoppable. And now that you're here, that you've reached the edge of this idea, I'm going to tell you something you didn't expect. Something that has nothing to do with typical motivation or recycled "yes, you can" speeches. Because you don't need a pat on the back, you need a shake-up. So get ready. Because what comes now is the real end. And when I say end, I'm not talking about the video. I'm talking about the old you. That you who has fed for years on well-disguised excuses, on fear with a reasonable voice, on complacency with an appearance of maturity. That you has its days numbered. And not because someone is coming to save you. Not because a stroke of luck is going to change your story. And now that we've made it this far, before we continue, I want to present the following to you. Our book, The Formula of Awakening, is now available. Do you feel like there's something inside you that wants to awaken, but you don't know where to start? Then I invite you to transform your way of thinking, and with it, your way of living. Discover who you can become. Start today. The link to get the ebook is in the first pinned comment of this video. Grab your copy now at a great price. With that said, let's continue with the video. Number. It's going to disappear because you're going to kill it with every uncomfortable decision you make, with every new habit you plant, with every minimal action you take even when you don't feel like it. Because change doesn't come with motivation. It comes with commitment. It comes with repetition. It comes when you do what's right, even when you feel absolutely nothing. And that's what makes you unstoppable. But wait, before you finish this video and leave as if nothing happened, I want to ask you a brutal question. What if you were the exception? What if you were the living proof that rebirth has no expiration date? What if inside you there is an idea, a vision, a talent, just waiting for you to stop living as a reduced version of what you can be? Do this. Stop looking for validation and start looking for coherence. Stop asking yourself if it's too late and start asking if you're willing to pay the price of staying the same. Because I'll tell you clearly, time is not the enemy. The enemy is continuing to postpone everything until there's nothing left to postpone. And if this video touched you, if at some point you felt that knot in your chest, that discomfort that made you swallow saliva, don't ignore it. That discomfort is an alarm. It's the most honest sign that you're still alive inside, that there's still something there, something big, something real, and that deserves to be rescued. Not to silence the world, not to silence your doubts, to prove it to yourself, only to yourself. Now, yes. If you've made it this far, don't leave silently. Leave in the comments this phrase: I rewrite my story without asking for permission. That way I'll know you're awake, that you haven't given up, that you mean business. And if this video shook you like I think it did, subscribe. Because what's coming isn't motivation, it's total reprogramming. We're going deeper, further, more real. And now I say goodbye. But not like anyone else would. Not with a see you next time, nor with a fake smile. I leave you with this. Let no one notice your progress until it's impossible to ignore you. Let your silence be your strategy. And when you come back, do it so transformed that not even you recognize yourself. See you at the next level. Or in your best version. The choice is entirely yours. Turn off this video and turn yourself on.